Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Season 2 of the REC Net Roundtable podcast. I'm Justin Leon, and your host as we get started to have a good time. This season, we want to have quality conversations, and we want to make sure that we can connect with the audience on a whole new level. And as we get started with episode 1, wow, am I excited to introduce our guest who is not in the experience industry, but production industry, and we're going to be picking his brain on how to take a concept and make it to a successful execution. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joe Mertz.
How you doing, everybody?
Hey, Joe.
Us, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, it's such a pleasure. Now, Joe is the president of Mertz Production, and we're going to be working with Joe to talk about how he can take an idea and make it into that successful event. The reason why we wanted to talk about this, and Joe, to talk directly to you, is we want to give the recreation team members the perspective of what goes on behind the scenes on production, as quite frankly, whether it's a director or a team member in activities, we deal with productions all the time, big and small.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
And before we dive into all of the questions we have for you, let's give the audience a little overview of who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Well, I'm Joe Mertz, president of Mertz Productions. We are an outsourced production company. So basically, companies come to us and say, hey, we have an idea for an event, we have an idea for a show, and we don't have anybody on staff to do that. So we really need a little bit of help to take our idea, bring it into fruition, make it happen, and put on the show for our audience. So that's what we do. They bring it to us. We start to work the idea out with them a little bit. We come up with some brainstorming, we come up with some ideas, and then we whittle it down from there until we all the way go through and fully execute the event for them.
Awesome. Now, to dive right in, I want to learn a little bit more about you, right? So for me, for example, I got into experience because I didn't want to flip burgers in food and beverage, and I didn't want to fold clothes in retail. But the reason why I stayed in the experience industry is far beyond just not wanting to flip burgers. So what is that reason that really allowed you to think, this is what I want to do?
Well, I started at a theme park as well. I was in high school. I was in the operations side, so kind of like you started as a lifeguard. I started as operations, and I would do water slides. I was the guy at the top sending the kids down to the lifeguard. I was cleaning the bathrooms. I was sweeping up. I was doing all that. And then after 2 years of that, I was doing theater in high school, and I decided to switch to the entertainment department. So I became a technical services person at Sesame Place up in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. Beautiful. Great job, excellent high school job. Did that all the way through college, and I was in tech services. Eventually became the tech services supervisor of the department. Nice. And then when I graduated college, graduated with an engineering degree, and I wanted, like you, a little bit more excitement in my life than designing, mechanical systems and air conditioning. So I came down to Orlando. I thought I was going to get into the film industry, and that didn't really pick up as much as I thought it would in Orlando. So I ended up getting a job at Walt Disney World in their special events department. Awesome. I was just a production assistant with them, worked with them for a few years, did some live events with them, a lot of corporate events. And then after about 3 years, my pinnacle being the Super Bowl halftime show in 2000, Disney produced that event.
Exciting.
I decided, all right, I'm going to go out on my own and try to do some more stuff on my own. And then once I went out on my own, I started picking up my own clients. I wasn't just freelancing. I was actually booking entire shows and producing entire shows for them. So that was the beginning of the company. It was just me by myself, and then we've grown, and we've just added staff and continued to grow as we pick up more events, more clients. We grow the team and produce events for them.
Awesome. Well, that is exciting. That's exciting. Now, as we navigate through this conversation, I really want to break it down step by step. Because what I find often in the recreation side of things is sometimes we come up with a cool idea. We're like, hey, we want to do this show. And then we just jump right into it, right? Now, a lot of people love the strategic planning. Some people don't even know how to get there, right? So I really want to navigate this conversation with you on how we take a crazy idea and break it down step by step.
Yep.
So starting off with conceptualizing an idea, where does your brain start when you have an idea and the goal is to make it into a big production?
Well, I'll disagree with what you said in the beginning. I feel like I'm in the experience industry. It's just a little bit different. I think you kind of ask for your audience members to be a little bit a part of it, and they ride and they jump and they slide, and we most of the time we're kind of watching it and we're giving them experience. But that's where I start. Yeah. What experience do we want them to walk away with? What do we want the audience to feel? What do they want to have? What is the tone, the vibe of the meeting? Quite often it's celebratory. We had a great year. We want to celebrate what we did last year, and then we want to motivate them to go out and produce more next year.
Yeah.
We want to announce something. We want to get everybody excited about this new opportunity that's coming up. We've even done events where it's kind of sad. Hey, we didn't have a good year last year.
Okay.
We need to talk about how things aren't going well. COVID, a lot of that meeting stuff. We had to put out some bad news for a lot of people out there. So I start with, what is the message? What are we conveying? What do we want the audience to walk away with? Yeah. We start there, and then we work backwards from that message to what do we want them to get through. So I would say, from an experience standpoint, same thing. Yeah. Do you want joy? Do you want happiness? Do you want kids to overcome fear? Do you want them to feel self-confidence? That you give them all those types of experiences when they're afraid to go down that water slide and they want to do it, or ride a roller coaster. So that's what, you can kind of do the same thing. What are we hoping to give? How much excitement are we trying to give these guys? And how are we going to give that to them? Yep. And then work backwards from there.
Awesome. That is beautifully said.
Thanks.
Now, a lot of times you may think, when I create a concept, it's like, all right, let's have a birthday party. And then furthermore, it can be like, we want to do a said themed birthday party. And that can be a better concept than just, hey, let's have a birthday party, right? But what makes a concept go from a good concept to a great concept where you, as the production guy, you're just eagerly excited to make this happen?
I'm glad you bring up birthday parties. Actually, when people go, what does a producer do? I actually use birthday parties as an example because most people can relate to it. They see a show. Birthday party is, there's things that have to happen. There's operations, like you said. There's creative. Is it a theme? Is there decor? So there's a lot of similar elements that are happening within the birthday party. So that's what and the two major elements of any event, and probably I would say an experience too, is the creative side and then the operational side. So the theme, the decor, the look and feel, are they wearing costumes? Do they have a giveaway when they go out? Those are all the creative elements that you can come up with and you can generate. And then you have to go from the creative element of what all those things are to now operate. How are we going to actually make that happen? Yeah. Who's going to fill up all the goodie bags? Who's going to hang the decor? Can it actually hang from those things? So it goes from this artistic concept to a more of an engineering technical concept. And I would say rarely can you find somebody who can do both of those great. They probably have a little bit over there. Okay. But I'm definitely more on the technical operations side, a little bit of creative. But I bring in creative people to want to just dream up, come up with great ideas, come up with the theme, come up with the unique idea. And then I go and start going, all right, well, how are we going to make this actually happen? Yeah. How are we going to bring this to life? So I would say don't stress out about trying to be able to do it all because you're not great at everything. And there's very few people who can be do both sides of that thing. So if you're really good at the ops, find somebody creative and let them come up with the creative ideas. And if you're really good at the creative, well, then find somebody who's good at that execution side of it.
Nice. So now we got a good concept. We're excited to keep going. We have a deadline, let's say a few months out, and now we're into the strategic planning process. Yep. Before we talk about how-tos, let's talk about some common pitfalls. Mm-hmm. So in that stage, what can a leader expect that may not go right?
Well, after you get the creative concept and you get the operation, the biggest thing is the budget.
Yes.
You may have great ideas and you may have all the people in the world to execute it, and you can absolutely get it done, but does it match the amount of money and the budget that you have? So then this process will get into what I call like a development phase of, all right, well, we've got this great concept and everybody's sold on this concept, but now the monies show up and we don't have any of that money. Yeah. So now you have to go, all right, what can we cut? How do we, now you got to get really creative, and I think it's both sides that have to get creative. What's super important? What's given, going back to that anchor of we want the audience to feel this way, we really can't lose this element. This element is the thing that's going to drive that feeling the most. Yeah. So let's hang on to that, but we can let this go because it'll make them feel a little bit better, but we're spending a lot of money and it's not a lot of bang for our buck. Yeah. So you'll let that stuff go. So I would say the pitfalls could be you can get really excited about an idea. You can really figure out how it's all going to happen. But if it's all over budget, then you're just, you're going to start from scratch, and you're going to have to go back. You're going to have to scrap it all and go back to square one. So budget's a big thing, and that's going to really drive how much of this stuff you can absolutely do.
I love that you pivot that way, because one of the next questions I have aligned is, with hotels, or let's say country clubs, and a lot of smaller facilities, the budget's not there, right? So while they are still optimistic and they may have great big ideas, how can someone execute a great production with a budget that is not so exciting?
Well, that's when you got to really lean on your people. You know what I mean? You got to work with your people and see what other skills and experiences they have. So again, you might have a bunch of lifeguards, but one of those lifeguards might be great at DIY type stuff. You know what I mean? So you can, you can ask them to help out and pay them a little bit extra, or hire them, on a different time. Try to find out all those other unique skills that your team might have, so you can leverage on those types of things to kind of drive that type of stuff for them, and just find those special gems and those moments. And those other people that can do things that you're surprised on what you can do. Quite often we do that a lot. People hire us, and they can hire us turnkey and do a whole production. But one of the first steps we do is we find out what they're really good at. We've done events where they take care of all the centerpieces. And it's one girl, she's great, and she does all the centerpieces. Or they also hire us, and we put all the centerpieces out there. So I'm always open to what unique skills does the team bring that can help add value to the event without adding increased cost.
Gotcha.
That type of stuff. And you can outsource some of that instead of having to hire an expert or somebody who gets paid lots of money to do that. You save that money for the things you really have nobody who can do that with, and then fill in those blanks there and fill it. And just ask those people to step up or help out. You can have people, it's like kind of the old-fashioned paint the sets, have everybody come over and they paint the sets for the local school play. There's a lot of money, cost savings things that you can do that can make it still exciting, but not lose the whole inspiration.
I mean, I think that's a phenomenal answer. I like to say all the times, in multiple case scenarios, it's the people above all else, right?
Correct.
Now, the next question I have is a little bit more on the broader spectrum, right? But taking the planning process as a whole, what does your structure look like?
Well, we'll again first start with the client. What is the event? Where is it happening?
Gotcha.
After we kind of get what do you want the audience to walk away with? Then what sandbox are we playing in? How big is the theater? How big is the room? Quite often we're walking into a completely different room, so we have to build the whole theater. The theater doesn't even exist. We have to build the stage. We have to build the backstage. So we're starting from the ground up. We just have 4 walls, and sometimes those walls dictate what we can and can't do. So we'll start there and really try to figure out what sandbox are we in, what space are we in, and then then we'll start designing, and since we've been doing this for a while, we can design with the budget in mind. We don't always get the budget, but we can usually have a flavor of what people feel like and where they're at. But we'll start to come up with concepts. And that always ends up looking like, to me, we got to draw a picture. They have to see what the show's going to look like.
Of course.
And that is one thing we take pride in quite often. We show them a picture, we take a picture of that event, and you can literally much pop them on top of each other, and they look exactly the same. And what we say too is, one of our selling points is, if nothing changes, if that's the show you buy, if that's the show we produce, and everything goes as according to plan, our bill is going to be exactly what we said it's going to be too. So we don't add any hidden fees. We add all that planning and stuff in there. So we work with you in that process. And I also feel like I plan everything on paper. So we draw everything, we put it in CAD, we get the heights of everything. We don't want to be surprised by anything. It's way cheaper to adjust walls and adjust heights in paper and on CAD and in a computer than it is to show up and the set is 12 feet tall and the ceilings are 11 feet tall and you're out back cutting a foot off of and you're spending a lot of money on there. So I do a lot of planning on paper. That way we feel confident when we walk into that space, it's going to be exactly what we said we were going to do, and it's going to be for the amount of money we said we were going to sell it for.
Awesome. Now, a quick promo for yourself here, right?
Thanks.
A lot of times for hotels in specific, right, with my background in resorts, we have big picture, right, and we have the time to be strategic and plan ahead, but we're also focusing on our day-to-day, right? So where does Mertz Production, or an outside production company, come into play on the pro side of thing? And it's not necessarily a con of, oh, we don't have the budget, so we shouldn't go with production teams, right? But what's the why that lets a resort say, yeah, that's my reason I'm going to go external and bring in a production crew?
Well, production's right in the word. We're producing.
Yes.
Most hotels and venues, the production, you don't have producers. You have operators.
Yeah.
Most stuff exists. It's kind of like, you don't have a whole construction crew to build the hotel. You hire the construction crew, you build the hotel, and then you got some guys that can maintain it and do that type of stuff. So it shows the same thing. Even when I worked at Disney, we were in the production department. We would produce the show, and then we would put it in the parks, and then they would go off and operate it. Now, Disney's big enough to have their own internal production department. Most companies don't have the money and the extra budgets to have a completely, separate production crew, especially when you're not producing constantly. So that's the benefit. You're going to bring in experts. You're going to save money, because even though it costs money, you're not going to spend all this time and energy to learn how to be a show producer. Just like, when I want to have somebody redo my bathroom, I don't want to spend the time to learn how to tile. I want to spend the time to learn how to hire. Or do I want to even hire a general contractor? Because they're going to bring a tile person, they're going to bring a plumber in, but you don't even want to manage all of that, because well, the cabinet's got to go in before the granite's got to go in. So those are all the things we know. So the value is in just us understanding the entire production process. So don't give yourself some time and energy to be able to have that, and the budget to hire somebody who knows what they're doing, and then that way the end product is going to be so much more valuable for
and that's a great way to put it. So thank you very much for putting that in perspective.
Yep.
Yeah, now, we talked a little bit about strategic planning, and before we get to event day itself, I want to talk a little bit about leadership within production, right? So starting off on the back of house, what does a solid leadership production professional look like for you?
Well, to me, we hire based on culture. I feel like we can teach anybody the skills and the training and the knowledge, but do you want to be that person who, when you run up against a wall, are you going through it, are you going over it, or are you going under it? Because and I've run into a lot of people. They hit a wall and they stop. They don't know what to do. And they come back to me and, hey, what about this? And it's like, well, you're not helping me, because now I got to do this and I got to do what you're doing. So the first thing I'm looking for is, do you just have the mental fortitude and the grit? Because it's going to be high pressure. It's going to be last minute. There's going to be things that we didn't even think of, ego, you might have had a great creative idea that was so cool and everybody needs to do this and it's awesome, and guess what? It gets cut last minute because the budget, and so you've been working on this thing for so long, you're so attached to it, and boom, at the drop of a hat, it goes completely out the window. So to me, anybody who's on the team whose personal feeling is, I want to make the show better. I don't want to make me better. I don't want to make my department. I want to make the show better. And I've worked with people who will fight with me. And I don't mind, because they're fighting for the quality of the show and they're trying to make the show the best it possibly can be. Those are the people I want on my team. Now, if they're fighting for themselves and their own selfishness, and they want to go on break, that's not the culture I'm talking about. But they're like, we absolutely need this. This is, and I can feel that passion and energy, because they want the audience to feel what they can see that's going to be. And that's what I want. I want designers and audio guys and lighting guys who know that so well. They know if we play this piece of music, it's going to energize everybody, and we got to play that.
I love that.
That's the energy that I want on my team. So the real nitty gritty and the knowledge and blah. We'll get to that later. But I want that energy. I want that excitement.
The reason why I ask is leadership qualities and just leadership styles overall, I think is super important. For example, when I'm leading my teams and I have one-on-ones, I love to ask my guys, hey, what is your leadership style, right? And I tell them straightforward, the reason why I'm asking you is, in 6 months from now, when the going gets tough, I always want you to remember what that style is, so you can know where to go, right? So more so on style, I understand style changes often, right? And you yourself have led teams for decades. So talk to us a little bit about how your style has progressed through time within production.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will say this has been a growth for me. It took me a while to learn that they don't need to do it my way, they just need to do it. And I always, at first, was like, well, they're doing it the wrong way. They got this is because this is the way I would do it, and that's how I would do it, and I wanted them to do that way. And it took and then I'm micromanaging them. I'm telling them exactly, and their style is different than my style. So it took a while. I had to take a step back and go, you've hired these people for a reason. And you gotta trust, and you gotta lean on them and their skills, and their style may be different, but end result, are they getting the job done? Are they getting it done? And sometimes they get it done better than I would.
Yeah. Right.
So that was a good growth moment for me to just really learn to take a step back, trust the people that I hired, trust that I know what I'm talking about, and I've hired somebody who knows what they're doing, and let them do it their way. And as long as it gets done, and the show gets to where we want it to do, and the end product is there, how it gets done is not necessarily as necessary as long as we're all working together and get it done. Awesome. So that's probably been the biggest growth moment. I definitely was just like, you need to do it, and I had to back off on that.
Awesome. Now, more so diving towards recreation, right? A lot of times, as I mentioned earlier, recreation professionals have to do it by themselves, right? They have their team, they have other departments, but a lot of times the budget is not allowing for outsourcing of a production team. So what would be your advice to recreation professionals who have a large-scale production that they're planning to do, but can't outsource?
Right. Ask for help. Not them to do it, but get counsel. If you're doing something that you've never done before, find somebody you like the way they're doing it, and go talk to them and say, hey, if I'm doing this, what do you recommend? What are your concerns? Try to learn as much of that as you can from them, and try to emulate it as much as you can, since you can't have them on the show. And if you don't have anybody there, ask around, ask for help. I will say one thing I've noticed in the production world is we all love what we do, and I can tell from you. I could ask you questions, and you'll be telling me everything about it because you love what you do. We get to put on great experiences for people, and you want to bring as many people in this industry as possible because it's a great industry. So anytime somebody has a passion for this or even an interest, they're going to want to talk about it. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid that they think you're trying to take their job or anything like that. They want that, one, they're going to be flattered that you're asking them because clearly you're taking an interest in your skill. And it could be the maintenance guy, you know what I mean? Like every time you fix a hotel room, it's fixed and nobody calls us back anymore. So just the acknowledgement they're going to get, and the indirect flattery they're going to get that you've recognized they're really good at their job. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Awesome. Don't be afraid to get counsel from somebody you absolutely trust, and that's absolutely. And I still, to this day, I ask everybody all kinds of questions. I'll ask little kids questions, about pop culture. Like, you can get information from anybody. People are experts. I'm not the expert on everything, so I absolutely ask people for information all the time.
That's amazing. Yeah. One of my favorite things to say, and I share with my teams, my team members, and even other departments is, I'm a student to the game, and I hope to never graduate.
100%.
The reason why I say that is, when the moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing.
Absolutely.
So I really love that advice, to just seek advice, seek help, and figure it out through your peers.
Yeah,
right?
I've been invited to Full Sail and places like that to to talk to people, and that is absolutely the first bit of advice I give them. Like, I said, you're graduating school, but you are not graduating from learning. You're going to be learning the rest of your life, all the way up through until you stop. And you're absolutely right. Nice. If you stop learning, you're going to stop growing, and somebody's going to pass you by. If there's a new piece of software out there, you hate AI, well, I'm sorry, AI is here. You're going to have to look at it. You're going to have to figure it out. You hate Excel, well, that's what everybody's using. You're going to have to, just buck up and go, all right, I'm going to have to learn this. Otherwise, some young kid who learns all that stuff is going to fly right past you,
Yeah.
So,
and I almost learned that the hard way, as when I first got a managerial role, I thought I knew it all.
Right.
I was like, no one can run a water park better than I can.
Yes.
And then I recognized I was stagnant for about a year, right? So that's a great piece of advice.
Do you have kids?
I do, yes.
Well, how many kids you got?
I have one.
Okay, well, I learned real quick when I had the second one. I thought being a dad was so easy, and then I had the second one. I went, day 3, I was like, this one is completely different. So it was absolutely marvelous. And it was that fast. I was said to my wife, I'm like, this one is not like the last one.
No.
So when you have the second one, I got news for you. It's not going to be anything like the first one. So you think you know everything, you don't.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's scary, but we'll get there.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, for strategic planning, before we segue off, I do want to say, unfortunately, there are some teams that are way too busy, have the big event on calendar, but they just can't get to planning. So sometimes they miss the planning, right?
Right.
So what can happen if you decide not to plan and just go for it on event day?
Well, anything can happen at that point. So, planning is your best bet to, the unforeseeables. I like to say we try to plan and get 95% of it in mind.
Okay.
And that way the 5% of whatever something pops up, we can adjust to and we can adapt to. If you don't plan, you're just making your life miserable the day of. It's probably got a low percentage chance of it coming out the way you envisioned it to be. Low percent chance of giving the audience what you're actually, trying to give them. You could absolutely do it, and it's possible. But you're just rolling the dice. You're making a big gamble. You're spending a lot of money, and you're probably not going to get the payoff that you're looking for. Where if you spend a little bit more time, a little bit more money planning, and even that, to your point, hire somebody. You know what I mean? If you don't have the time, well then spend a little bit more of your budget to have somebody plan it, because at least that portion is going to actually come out the way you want it to. If you want to go just roll the dice, there's a good chance, majority of those are just not going to deliver. You spend a lot of money, spend a lot of energy, spend a lot of anxiety because you're stressing out about everything, and then the audience is walking away with going, that was okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then now you're even more frustrated because you spent a lot of money, a lot of energy, and they don't even care. They're just like, I'm gonna go get some ice cream, that'll be better.
See, I strategically plan to ask that, so the audience can see how important planning is.
Absolutely.
Right?
Very brilliant.
We want to make sure we plan, because when we don't, things are more than likely not going to go right.
And sometimes, and this has happened to us too, when people don't have enough planning, they'll cancel it. And sometimes that is the better choice, to just say, we don't have the right time, we don't have the right energy, we don't have the right people. We're better off not doing this than trying, because you also have a brand to put out there. You don't want your activities to be like hit or miss. Every other activity Justin does is okay, but no, you want as many of them as possible going. Like my kids have been around great activity directors, and they're going to an event that they probably wouldn't go to because that guy is running it.
Yes.
So his brand, just on being the person who's running trivia or something simple. They want to go to it because they know he's going to make it fun, he's going to make it interesting, he's going to turn whatever experience that could possibly be into the most elevated experience possible. The opposite is, you have a couple flops, people are avoiding you. They're not going there. They're not going to want to go see you. If you got a lounge singer and he's not good, he's not entertaining, he's missing half the notes, are you going to his next No, absolutely not.
Exactly.
And even though he's going to go, well, I was asleep last night and I had too many drinks, no, the brand is sour. The audience thinks that guy is not a good performer. Even though he might be a good performer, he just chose to rush something and try to put something out there before it's ready, and you absolutely don't want to do that.
Okay, exactly. Now, we talked about the idea, made it into a concept, talked about strategic planning. So now it's event day, right? Broad question, what makes event day a success?
Event day to me, successful is everything went according to plan. All the things that we thought were going to happen absolutely happened. And I've actually been on events with my wife, and we do a lot of planning, and then we're sitting there, and she'll even tease me. She's like, what do you do? And I'm like, what do you do? You're not doing anything. And I said, well, that's because we planned properly. Everybody knows what they need to do. They're all doing it. So if I have nothing to do on event day, I have done my job perfectly and absolutely. It doesn't always happen that way, but
of course.
But yes, like I feel quite often on event day, I'm just hanging out, watching it all happen, and the random fire that we couldn't plan, or the thing that popped up, and that 5%, that's something we couldn't afford seeing, or something's changed, we lose power, whatever. Then I can go help out with those types of things. But on event day, everybody is doing what they have been told, have planned to do. They all have their role. They all know what their responsibilities are, and everybody's executing appropriately.
Awesome. And what are some things an operator can do on event day to ensure that it flows perfect?
Well, for me, when I'm in venues and the operators there just have all the things that we're looking for from you. The doors are open when my crew shows up. If there's security badges and we got to get checked in, security's there. If catering needs to be there to feed my team, we want all that stuff to be there for the team so that they can do it. They're not worried about. They're not spending time and energy doing things that you guys can take care of. You want them totally focused on the show. You want them delivering the best experience they possibly can. So you want to plan all the other things around them to give them the support that they need so that they can act. I mean, and trust me, it's happened. We showed up, we're there at 5 a.m., the doors aren't open, you know? So we got to wait 30 minutes. So I made my guys get up early. We're supposed to be in at 5, but we couldn't be, we couldn't get in there until 3 o'clock. We just did an event. And we were there at 2 o'clock, and the show was at 6, and the in-house guy showed up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So we spent the last 90 minutes scrambling to try to get, and it was not the best event it could have been because we got it up and running mere moments before the event went off. Couldn't test anything. So that's what you want. If you're, you want to support them in all the ways that you can. And I will tell you, the guys know which venues they love to go to because the teams that support them. And I will say, I've been in a lot of hotels. Our favorite guys typically are the setup guys. Rarely do the setup guys that are setting the tables and chairs and putting the risers down for us. I mean, it doesn't matter what brand, those guys are there, and they consistently those guys are always delivering for us. As an industry, we know it, and even the whole department. And I'm like I said, it's just those guys just and it's awesome because they're supporting us, they're taking care of us, and most people will be like, oh, it's chairs and the stage, but those guys putting the chairs and the stage in the right spot is part of the experience for them. So
Now, as we know, even with the best preparation, event days may not go as planned, right? So talk to us a little bit about a time where you were set up for success and nothing went as planned.
Well, I wouldn't say nothing, but we've had power, I've had power go out in the middle, we guys on stage, presentations happening, and boom, we have no power. I will say the one that was the iffiest and the really just the most stressful. We were doing an event. It was Wyndham Hotel Group was splitting off, and they're called Travel and Leisure now, but they were becoming Wyndham Destinations. So this day we were doing this event at 5 o'clock. They were Wyndham Hotel Group, and then the next day they were going to be Wyndham Destinations. So we had a whole little performance and a ceremony and a reveal of the logo, and we had performers coming out, and we had all these stations of different groups, and of course it's outside, and we're in Florida, so what comes but this squall comes through, and it's raining and it's pouring and the stage is getting soaked, and we got a 30-foot by 30-foot truss up in the air with a kabuki drop on it. And my rigger's looking at the wind speeds, and we're thinking we got to drop the kabuki. Now, if I drop the kabuki, I can't do it in the show because we got to get a lift out and put it back up, So, we're about to decide, are we going to, and I'm watching the clock, and it's like, this says this has got 8 minutes left, and it's 5:52, and the event's going at 6, and the rain's going to stop. And sure enough, at 5:59, it stops, and boy, did we just go to work and mop the stage, and we pulled the towels out, we got the performers outside, and the show went off as planned. I just couldn't believe it was going to, and then everybody's looking at me like, how do I got to make this decision. I got safety involved or attached to the building, so it was an extremely stressful decision trying to, and thank God we had computers that have weather forecasts now, 15, 20 years ago when you were watching the news to figure it out. I don't know what we would have done. But now we have the internet and stuff like that, so we were able to look down to the minute to make those decisions. But that was definitely stressful. I thought we were going to lose the entire event, all the fun, all the excitement. We ended up blowing up the pyro, dropping the kabuki drop, and everybody. It was great. It was awesome.
Now, on the flip end, I want to know your favorite event. Right? So which event went absolutely amazing that today you can say, oh, that was such a great time?
Oh, that's great. I will say there's this one moment. It was for Bloomin' Brands, Outback Steakhouse. And there's a guy who, very interesting guy. He was I'm probably going to get this wrong. He was over in the Middle East somewhere in a third world country. He owned a couple of McDonald's or restaurants there.
Okay.
Government took over and basically seized the keys from him, and he had to flee the country, and he moves to Brazil. He starts over with his family, and he built up the Outback Steakhouse, world in Brazil, and basically was the franchisee for all these places. And he passed away, and this year we were tasked with coming up with a video for him, and then his family was going to accept this award. And we put together this montage for this guy that I never met. I knew about him, but I never really met him. And just that you watch the montage and you instantly know who this guy is. And the video ended, the music played, his family walked up to the podium, he stood there, and the music settled, and I just felt like we had captured the gravity of the moment, but we paid this guy the honor that we could possibly pay, knowing what he had gone through his entire life, how he just picked himself up and kept going. And I, being a business owner, being like the thought of just my business being swiped from me, and you know, in this age, you got to start over from scratch in a completely new place. So I really felt the weight of that. And when his son stepped up to the podium and the music faded and he got to talk, I was like, we nailed that moment, and that was it was definitely one of the most special moments in my life. You know, to just give that guy that moment. Oh yeah, it was great.
No, that's so heart touching, right? And I mentioned earlier, you're not in the experience industry, but that definitely is an experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that is awesome to hear. Now,
thanks, man.
Circling back to the experience industry, right? More specifically regarding operators, right? So, what can be some advice you give to an operator who's dealing with productions on a smaller scale, such as a 30-minute game show that it happens every Friday, or a line dance lesson, or quick trivia? What's some production advice an operator can have to ensure it's chef kiss?
I would say one, practice. You know what I mean? Whenever I do something like this and it's an experience like that, or we're playing a trivia game for somebody, I bring my kids in and I make them play the game with me so I can watch it. Focus on the little details that don't cost you a lot of money. You know, and most people don't really play a game show, so have a buzzer that works. Have sound effects, have, you know, anything that you can just kind of elevate the experience from them playing in their living room to give them an experience. And I believe we're in fun times right now. If you look, when I was growing up, concerts were on the down, people weren't really going out. You could get the music on CD, and we've really come back to the live event experience is something people are looking forward to. They're on their phones all day, but you cannot replicate. And I think COVID taught us this. Watching a concert on a Zoom is nowhere near as cool as 20,000 people in an environment, and you can feel that energy, and the music is pumping through all of you, and you all have the same love and passion for the person who's on stage. And the person on stage feels that, and they're performing that. Live experiences, and I've heard a million times, look, videos, conference. I mean, live experiences aren't going away. We as human beings are social creatures. We want to be around other people. And they're starting to learn that, and I'm really excited to see even the small operators do, you know, little special events on Halloween or a glow event. Like, lean into that, but just try to make it something that you know. I think as long as it looks like you just didn't throw it together, it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be thought of, and you have to believe that it had everything you wanted it to do. One of my favorite things my family and I do on cruises is we go to trivia. We go to all the trivias, but they have music. They answer the questions. They're good questions. You know, they make sure they're valid questions. They have the answers to the questions. You got points. You got a little bit of a prize. It's not a lot, but we love just being there together. Now, if we go and the questions are wrong, or somebody forgets, or the microphone doesn't work, well, we're not going to trivia. But just focus on making sure that that experience you're putting out there, and I would even say, bring the budget down on the idea to make sure that you can actually deliver it well. And then when you deliver that well, now you know how to do that. Now you can expand it a little bit more, and you can get a little bit bigger. But focus on just executing it super well and giving them something a little bit more than they can't get at home.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's beautifully said. Practice is so important. What I do with my teams is each month we have what we call a team rodeo, because we're at a ranch. And oftentimes we integrate a brand new experience at that practice there. And we have our hosts come on, and then they host the activity to the lifeguards, right, or to the activity coordinators, and get that full first experience of this is how it would look. Now, you said something that stood out, which is the music, right, and the special effects. And I remember when I was first starting off, and we had a very small budget, I told my team, hey, here's the vision. All we need is a microphone and a speaker, and watch what happens, right? And we made a lot of great things happen. But then later on, when we elevated our craft and we added the special effects, it was a whole nother ballgame, right?
Correct.
So what would be some advice you have for someone who's starting off and wants that big picture production, but only has a speaker and a microphone?
First what I would do is, look within too. Like, what do you like? What experiences have you done that have elevated or made you feel special or made you feel, over the top? You checked into a hotel and they had your name on a card, or anything like that. So start there, and again, what are those feelings that you're starting to get, and then try to recreate that, or how can you take that and how does it fit in your environment? So definitely use what you know, use what you feel and you learn, and then music to me is the easiest. Music is, try watching a scary movie and take the music out. It's not a scary movie. We do haunted houses, and if you don't put music in the haunted house, it's just a bunch of things bouncing around and a lot of noise. So, theater has lighting, audio, and video. Those are the theatrical disciplines. If you're looking at any kind of experience, look at those three things. How does it look? How does it sound? What are you displaying? And I would start with music. Music is the easiest place to start. It's you can find a piece of music that's going to convey the mood, and you're halfway there already.
Yeah.
And then you want to party, you play party music. You want to chill and jazz like brunching, you play some lighter stuff. Yeah. But it just elevates that. We did an event once, brand new client, very small show, and we were playing music when he walked in, and the guy goes, "We're playing music." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what did you normally have?" He goes, "We've never had music before." And I'm like, who did this event before? You got to have microphones, you got to have speakers, so I know you have the and music's free. It's, especially now, it's everywhere and it's super cheap. So music is a great place to start, absolutely, and that was a great place for you to start. You see, and now you can start adding on those other pieces and parts. Yeah.
Now, as we segue to the closing part of our episode, right, we talked about concept. Now we're all the way at event day.
Yep.
And we've really stressed the importance on practice and planning.
Yep.
Right. Thank you very much so far for your insight. It's been absolutely amazing. I know something that helps me as a professional myself is I may know exactly what I need to do, but being able to hear it from someone and get that reassurance really keeps me aligned. So I think you're so special for our show today.
Thank you so much.
To be able to showcase your insight.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Yeah, I love experiences. I love what you guys do. My family loves all that. We've done so many escape rooms, all that type of thing. Those are, and everything that you guys do. My kids have already told me we got to go to, Westgate and go, because I showed them the water park that's down there, and it wasn't there last time we were there. So they're like, when are we going back? So that's awesome.
Awesome. Now, I'm a big fan of production. The way I like to lead my teams, even if it's an arts and crafts or a full-scale production event, is everything's a production, right? When we're on stage, I like to say we have on-stage hospitality, right? You have to put on a show even if you're just greeting guests for the average day-to-day operation. So I was super excited to get you on today to pick your brain. Speaking of picking your brain, I want to pick it a little bit more.
Okay,
right?
no problem.
So talk to us about, and you said you shared your favorite event, right? What has been most rewarding within your career? Whether it's an event or just a milestone you hit as a professional?
When we created the theater, all the entertainment for Viking Ocean Cruises. So Viking River Cruises, and they decided to venture out on ocean cruises. We had an opportunity, they hired us, and we built all the entertainment, ground up, custom entertainment for their first 4 ships. That was definitely the biggest challenge of my life, but by far the most rewarding. We brought a great team together. We produced some great quality event. 3 years in a row, we were voted Cruise Critics Best Entertainment in that size ship. So that was fun. And again, I'm not a big, but that was the cruise critics, the people that, the actual people who are on the cruises. That's who I like to hear, is the audience. Did the audience like it? And getting to hear them say that. And we do a lot of corporate events, and I love corporate events, don't get me wrong. But that was fun because it was just pure entertainment. We didn't have to try to share a message or motivate them to, to sell more next year or anything like that. It was just, what are we going to do? What is this audience going to enjoy? We had a little bit from the client. They certainly wanted certain bits and pieces, but with the box was not really that tight. We could kind of just really go creative and conceive some cool things. And we did some really cool, I felt innovative things at the time for sure.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, we talked a lot about always being a student, right? So talk to me a little bit about your biggest lesson.
My biggest lesson, is... God, I wish I didn't have to learn new software, but I'm constantly learning new software. There's always something new, and especially in this industry, the technology is getting smaller and cheaper and faster. I mean, when we first started doing this, editing a video was hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment, and we'd have to rent out a hotel room or even a ballroom space to do it. Now we're editing multiple videos on a laptop, on iPhones. So it's just, you have to embrace the new stuff that's coming in there. My father-in-law, he's not a big technology fan, and he's like, do you have to? And I was like, I have to. Well, I like it, luckily. I like technology, but if I were to not again, if you want to just say, I don't like AI, you can't avoid it. It's like saying I'm not going to do a Google search. The people that didn't embrace Google search, they were passed up. I'm going to stay in the yellow pages. Well, there's no more yellow pages anymore. So it's just trying to stay in front of and not wasting time learning a software that you don't end up using. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's so many new apps or new things, and that could easily happen. It's like, oh, we're going to do this, and you learn that, and then it's gone, and it's out there. So that's probably the hardest part too, is spending time and energy on software that you're going to use is great. Yeah. Spending time and energy on software that just then goes away, it's like, oh, what
Oh yeah, I
great.
Can see.
Yes.
Now, with REC Net, we have a strong following from young professionals and students even, right? So what would be some advice you have for students who are considering getting into a career in production?
Well, I would say any opportunity you get on any production, ask questions. When we hire, I can tell a student or an intern that I hire if they're going to make it in the industry. If I hire them on a show and they do whatever I ask, but then as soon as they get a free moment, they're on their phone or looking at Facebook or Instagram. When you're on a show, that is the best time to learn as much as you possibly can. It doesn't happen that often. There is so much going on. I'm constantly still learning stuff. You want to know how the stuff gets off the truck? Go out to the truck and watch it come off the dock when it comes in there. You want to learn audio? Go sit next to the audio guy and just watch what he's doing. Ask a couple questions. Yeah. If they can answer, they will. You don't have to be an audio guy, but you got to be a student of what you're doing. And I do. I love everything about it. My family makes fun of me. I go see a show and I'm looking up most of the time and not even looking at this because how are they doing this? What are they doing? When I saw O and the curtain goes away and this huge, I think I missed the first 2 minutes of the show because I'm just like, what is up there?
Oh yeah.
And I found out from those guys, they designed the show and built the theater after it, which was really cool. They just, what do we want to do in this show? They had all that stuff, and then they built the walls up and around it. So that's a cool thing. So any opportunity you get, and again, it could be as simple as a birthday party. It could be as simple as a small event. Learn every detail of that event that somebody's doing, and try to learn how it gets from somebody's idea to now you're the person who's cutting cake for somebody.
Awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. Now, whether it's a student seeking an internship or a large company that wants some help on production, how can they find you?
LinkedIn's probably the best, or our website, mertzproductions.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Mertz Productions as well. And send us an email or message over there, and we that's a great way to reach out to us.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, Joe, it was a true pleasure having you on. Once again, we wanted to kickstart a new episode this season that just focused on stepping away from recreation, while our recreation professionals can really get an insight and take away from a production professional like you.
My pleasure, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, indeed. And once again, I do want to share, because I forgot to share earlier, we are actually at your warehouse here, right?
Yep.
So thank you for having us on set.
My pleasure.
It's such a pleasure to connect, and absolutely. I look forward to chatting later.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Indeed.